What is going on, YouTube? Welcome back to Fireside Rangers. I'm your host, Eric Wilson. Today, joined with my co-host, Will Cohen. Today, we're doing an interesting topic. It came to me in a dream last night. The Rangers were on a 10-game winning streak. And, even before the game, I kind of sat there and I'm like, you know what? We might have tied our franchise record for a win streak, but I'm still not convinced. I'm still not convinced that this team has what it takes to win a Stanley Cup. I would see Jimmy Vesey out on the first line. And I was like, I love Jimmy Vesey, but on the first line, he's not going to win us a Stanley Cup. And then I don't know. I was just thinking about it. And I'm like, man, we're still missing that one piece. And we know that the Rangers have some plans going on for this year's trade deadline. And it's going to have to be a big move because then I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, I'm like, man, the Oilers have McDavid, the Avalanche have McKinnon and Makar. The Lightning have Kucherov, and Boston has Pastrnak, and I'm like, we have some stars. We've got Panarin, we've got Igor, we've got Fox, and I'm like, man, it's still not enough. And I keep thinking to myself, there's one piece who the Rangers need, and that's what'll get them to real Stanley Cup caliber material. So I text Will this morning and I say, all right, we got to make this video. And it turns out we both have someone in mind who the Rangers should go out and trade for, but they aren't the same person. So yeah, only one man can save us, but it's one man in my opinion and one man in Will's opinion. So we're going to be diving into both. But before we do, make sure you guys like, subscribe, ring that bell so you don't miss notification. If you're watching us on Apple or Spotify, be sure to give us a 5-star review. Leave your thoughts down in the comment section below. What player would you trade for as general manager of the New York Rangers in order to really get them to Stanley Cup caliber material? And lastly, be sure to follow us on all of our social media platforms at Fireside Rangers on Instagram, X, and TikTok. But yeah, before we really get into it, Will, how are you doing today, my friend?
Oh man, 11 days until the trade deadline, so I'm just waiting. I'm just waiting until Drury makes a trade. I honestly think it's going to happen sooner than later. I feel like it could happen. Well, I don't know. I wanted something to happen before Wednesday, our next game, but I don't think that's going to happen. I think if anything's going to be made, it'll probably be made at the deadline this year. I don't know. Yeah. Just my gut feeling.
Yeah, I mean, we started covering the deadline when it was approximately 2 months away. Just coming up with names the Rangers could target. Some of them have already been traded away. Others have been taken off the market. Teams have said that they're not going to trade them to the Rangers. At the end of the day, it's been close to 2 months, and Drury hasn't done anything. So I guess this video is kind of like our penultimate finale to trade deadline coverage because we'll make this on our final decision on who we want the Rangers to have. And I guess the ultimate finale will be covering breaking news on whoever the Rangers actually go out and get. So, I mean, if they do. So be sure to look out for that whenever that happens. But my guy, who I think the Rangers need to go out and get, he's right there on the graphics, Frank Vatrano, right? Former New York Ranger. We acquired him at the deadline 2 years ago, I think it was. Yeah, it was him and Andrew Kopp. And both of them came in and they played pretty good. But I think of the two, Frank Vatrano was the better. He played on that top first line with Kreider and Zibanejad, and he meshed with them very well. So if we're looking for someone who's going to come in and immediately make an impact on bringing Kreider and Zibanejad back to form, I don't have to be too nervous about Vatrano because I've seen him do it in the past. Obviously, it's been 2 years, so there's no guarantee that the chemistry would just instantly relight. We saw what happened with Kane and Panarin after they spent several years away from each other and then came back and they just couldn't find any chemistry. But I am confident in Frank Vatrano. I'm looking at his season stats here. He's played in 58 games. He has 26 goals, 19 assists, and 45 points. So he is a pretty big point scorer. I know the main criticism on him is that he's kind of a power play merchant. Like most of his points have come on the power play. And, if he would have brought that up to me like a couple of weeks ago, I would have been like, okay, maybe he's not my top guy because the Rangers already have a really solid power play. But right now, I know the power play kind of cooked against the Islanders in the Stadium Series. But other than that, the power play hasn't really been pulling its weight. We went from a team that was carried by the power play early on in the year to now we're just struggling to score goals. Despite going on this win streak, that did consist of 2 7-goal games. I'm not denying that, but like look back at the last few games. 2 against Philly. How many? I don't even remember how many we scored last night. It was just 2, right?
Just
Yeah,
two.
just 2 games in back-to-back games. So I'm willing to help this power play get that little boost. Plus, you also got to consider the fact that Vetrano is currently playing on the Anaheim Ducks, and I don't have the standings pulled up, but I know that they are very close to the bottom of the league. So you got to assume that Vetrano putting up 45 points in 58 games with the Ducks might improve even further when he's playing with a team like the Rangers, who's shown Stanley Cup potential. So to me, I think it's a pretty good all around idea to go out and get Vetrano again. I'm looking up his contract right now because he's not a free agent after this season, right? They would have him for 2 years.
Yeah, they'd have him for this year and next year, and then he's gone.
Yeah. So, I mean, not even necessarily he's gone. I know the Rangers are pretty strapped for cap right now, but I think a problem that we've seen in recent years is just the continuous flow of rentals. Like the last Vetrano, Kopp, Kane, Tarasenko, Mott, everyone that the Rangers have gotten at the deadline in the last few years have all been rentals. Vetrano provides the opportunity to kind of change up that storyline that we've been going down the last few years where, yeah, we can go out and we can trade for this guy. His AAV is only 3.65 million. Like the Rangers can clear that up very easily. And not only do they have him for this year, they'd have him for next year. And 2 years from now, the cap situation is going to be entirely different. Hopefully, fingers crossed at least. And maybe the Rangers can keep him around. I know he's like a little bit older, but he's not too old to the point where his career is nearing its end. So he's 29 years old. He's turning 30 in like 2 weeks or something like that. But I think the Rangers can get another solid 3 or 4 years out of him for a relatively cheap price. So that is why I like Frank Vetrano. Just what he can provide, his previous success with the team, and the fact that he would be longer than 1 year. I know he's not a superstar like some of the guys the Rangers might be facing in the playoffs, but combine his abilities with the rest of the Rangers' superstar level abilities, I think we just become instantly a more solid team. And definitely with having him, they have a lot better chance of winning the Stanley Cup than without him and keeping Jimmy Vesey on that first line. That's my take, though, Will. I know you disagree, and I kind of just ranted for like 6 minutes, but I'll pass the torch over to you. Tell me why I'm wrong.
I don't know. Like, I don't think you're wrong. I don't think Frank Vetrano would be a bad deadline acquisition, but I think there's definitely better options for them out there. I think guys like Jordan Eberle, that's who I really like. He's at the top of my list. I just think he's more of a dynamic kind of guy. Like, I think when you bring in a guy like Vetrano, he's shoot first, which the Rangers don't need on that first line because Mika's the one who's supposed to be doing that. You need someone that can set up Mika for him to take shots because he's not taking any. Like, he's passing up all these opportunities. Like yesterday on the 2-on-1 on a shorthanded breakaway, he passed it to Kreider. Like, he should have taken a shot. Like, that's why I really like Jordan Eberle because he's a playmaker, but he can also score goals. And it's kind of like Tarasenko with Panarin last year. Like, if you remember Panarin last year before Tarasenko came over, I think he only had like 15 goals. And then in the 31 games we had Tarasenko, he scored 12. So that's the type of thing that I'm looking for with Zibanejad. Let's get him a playmaker that will set him up, that will allow lanes to open up because they can't just shade towards Zibanejad or Kreider now. They're going to have to go towards somebody else, the playmaker like Eberle. And if they leave Eberle open, he's going to rip one and probably going to score because he has a good shot. He's quick, defensively sound. He performs in the playoffs. I don't know. I think Eberle is the perfect fit for the New York Rangers, but I don't not necessarily do I think for Frank Vetrano would be a bad acquisition. No, but he wouldn't be my first. Like, let's say Eberle is off the table, then I'd go towards Vetrano because obviously he has another year he has one more year. So then you wouldn't have to be looking for another right winger anymore if they don't want Othman on the first line. But I just think Eberle would be like that perfect fit for that Mika Zibanejad, Chris Kreider line as the right winger.
Yeah. So I don't disagree with you on that aspect. I think Eberle would be a good fit with Kreider and Zibanejad because of the way that he plays, but he's still not my top choice for a couple of reasons here. I mean, one is the fact that he's a rental. His contract ends at the end of this year. So with the way that the market has been throughout the trade deadline so far, it's very pricey. And if the Rangers go out and make a trade this year, they're going to have to give up a pretty hefty sum, whether it be a top prospect, a first round draft pick, if not both. I feel like if the Rangers are going to go out and get someone, it's gotta be worth it. And Jordan Eberle for just like 30 games and a chance to win a Stanley Cup, like obviously if we win the Stanley Cup, it's worth it. But to me, yeah, I don't know if he's that guy for me. I mean, also look at his contract too, 5.5 million cap hit. That's like $1.5 million more than Vetrano. And I know like $1.5 million, it's not that much, like when you first think about it, but then consider realistically how strapped for cap we are. It does end up kind of mattering. And then like, sure, let's say the Rangers trade for Eberle and they like what he brings and they want to sign him. The guy's 33 years old. How many more good years are you going to get out of Jordan Eberle? Especially because he's also a former Islander. I might have some complete bias there that I just didn't even process until now. Then you look at his stats too, 53 games played. So a little bit like 5 games less than Vetrano. He only has 13 goals, 21 assists, 34 points. So like I understand that his style of play might be better suited for Kreider and Zibanejad, but there isn't really just that same level of production that you've been seeing from Vetrano. I mean, I think the biggest difference, though, to like advocate for Eberle is that he's a +9, where Vetrano is like a -18. So Eberle on paper automatically plays better defensively too. But again, he's on the Kraken, and the Kraken are solid this year, whereas the Ducks are like kind of atrocious. But like I don't know. That's my take on it. If you want to rebuttal, go ahead.
I kind of like I understand it's the Ducks, but they do have guys like Mason McTavish, and there's a lot Carlson that's playing well, obviously for Toronto, and I know that like record wise,
Ryan Strome.
Let's not talk about him. Record wise, yeah, the Kraken are doing better than the Ducks, but the Kraken offense, for how high powered it was last year, everyone on that team is taking a dip. I don't know if it's the coaching. I don't know what it is. I don't know what happened from last year. I don't know. Maybe last year was a fluke run or something, but I think on the right team with the right, offensive guys, I think Eberle can. I think he's able to bounce back from, a not so great year for himself. I mean, he's a guy that always scores 50, 60, 70 points in a year, but this year, I mean, it's only, what is it? I think you said like 20 something.
He's at like 37,
yeah,
I think,
30
34.
Like, I mean, he's probably going to hit 50 points, but it's not like his normal self. But I don't know. I think his play is kind of more suitable for not Panarin. I don't know why I'm saying Panarin, for Kreider and Zibanejad. But if you're looking at it from a rental standpoint, like, honestly, I'd be fine with letting him, like, giving up stuff for him and letting him go, because there's guys like Othman down in the AHL right now. Obviously, Othman's going to come up next year. At some point, Gabe Perreault's going to come up. Who knows when? Maybe it'll be next year. Who knows? But there's guys waiting in the shadow for him to come up if they don't re-sign Eberle, which I doubt they will. But that's I don't know. I could see them going with Vetrano, but at the same time, you also have got with Othman. Would you slot Othman on the third line? Probably not. You're going to want to put him up on the first line. I guess Vetrano goes on the third line, but what happens with Cooley and Kakko? I guess there's just so much that has to be answered in depth, like that I don't really want to do now, because it obviously doesn't matter. But there's a lot more that has to be answered with Vetrano because he has that extra year on his contract.
Yeah. I mean, if the Rangers make a trade for either of these players, I mean, we'll most certainly make a video about how it impacts the team and the team's future as well. I'm also happy that you brought up Othman and Perreault, because before I came up with this video topic, I had another idea about Othman and Perreault, because apparently a lot of teams have been calling the Rangers.
Drury said no to all of them.
The second Othman or Pro's name get mentioned, just hangs up the phone.
Mm-hmm. And I love that. I love that
because we do need to make a trade, but we need to be
you
smart.
Can't give up your prospects like Othman. Yeah, exactly. You can't just be giving up Othman for a rental for 1 year. You gotta I think if you're gonna give up Othman, you'd probably I've seen Elias Pettersson's name come up a couple times today, just because there's been reports that not that they're gonna trade him for the deadline, but that Canucks and Pettersson aren't close to a deal right now, and he could look to move on, and the Rangers could be the Rangers could be one of those teams that look at
Pettersson would be perfect.
And if you're gonna get Pettersson, you have to have a guy like Othman. Yeah. I don't know if I'd add Perot in that because I really like him, but you have to have a prospect like Othman that you can center a trade package around for a guy like that. So that's another reason why you shouldn't trade Othman for a rental. But I also really like him, and I'm excited to see what he does next year. But there's a lot that goes into this that has to be answered, and it's just too much.
Yeah. See, I think this trade deadline, it's interesting because there's not really a perfect scenario. Mm-hmm. Like we've been debating here, going back and forth about Vetrano and Eberle. And yeah, Vetrano's my top guy right now. Eberle's yours, but neither, in my opinion, are perfect options. There's really not that many players on the market right now that exactly line up with what we need. I think Elias Lindholm and Sean Monahan were the two best options on the market. And of course, they get traded away for packages that the Rangers really can't afford. So, and they're going to end up overpaying no matter where they go if they decide to make a move. I wouldn't be mad if they didn't make a move and kind of just rocked with what they got. Maybe, if we had more time, I would have loved to see Othman get a couple of games getting consistent top line minutes there, because now if we don't make a trade, it's like if we don't like VC, we gotta
look with him on the first line. You have no other option unless you move Kakko up there. But
but I like Kakko more in that defensive third line role. I think he performs a lot better down there. So that's why I've heard a lot of people say this. This is like the least exciting trade deadline as a Rangers fan ever. And it might just be because last year was so awesome when we were like, we have two targets that we want. Neither are realistic and neither will ever happen. But then both actually happened. We got Tarasenko and we felt like we won the lottery. Mm-hmm. And then we're like, all right, so no Patrick Kane, but it's okay because we got Tarasenko, we got our guy. And then we also got Kane. And then we all know how it went. But
this deadline isn't like the last 2 years we've had buyer's market where it's the top teams that are gonna, basically fleece the small guys that are doing the trading or that are giving away their pieces. But this year it's the teams that are trading away their pieces that are fleecing It's a seller's market right now.
And that's also the problem with that Elias Lindholm trade. It's like every year, whatever the first trade that's made
sets the market.
It sets the market.
Yeah.
And Calgary, who did Calgary trade up to? I don't even remember.
The Canucks.
Vancouver. It was the seller owned that. Calgary got such a hefty package for Lindholm, and then that's why Sean Monahan went for a first-round draft pick this year. That's ridiculous.
It's also that I feel like there's last year you had Barbashev, O'Reilly, Bertuzzi on the market, Tarasenko, Kane, all these names on the market, but this year it's you had so many superstar elite talent to star talent on the market last year that this year it's not like that. Yeah, you had Lindholm, but is he really a star? I don't know. Monahan's not a star. Eberle, I wouldn't say
a lot of
star right now.
Players.
Yeah, it's a lot of role players. I like that. It's a lot of role players. It's not like years past.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, there's always the possibility something crazy will happen at a left field. We could post this video and then tomorrow morning I'll wake up and all of a sudden Leon Draisaitl is a New York Ranger. Like,
Leon
like
Draisaitl for a 7th. I'm taking
yeah.
that.
But I see at the same time, I don't know. I saw a post on Instagram earlier that it was rumors, of course, so like nothing's confirmed, but the report was that the Pittsburgh Penguins only wanted a first round pick and a top prospect for Jake Gensel. Like if the Rangers, I know Pittsburgh wouldn't want to deal with the
I would
Rangers,
do
but
that.
like a first round pick and Adam Sikora, I'm like for Jake Gensel, I'll take him.
I think you'd have to give up it. I mean, I know it's not going to happen, but it probably has to be like Othman for that. He is 29 years old. I mean, he's old, but Jake Gensel is like the perfect 5v5 player, dude. Like he's literally like all he does is score 5v5. Like he's awesome. But yeah, I think that if he goes anywhere, he's definitely gonna. I've heard a lot that the Oilers, that's their top guy. And if he goes anywhere, I think it's gonna be Edmonton. That'd be good for them though. That'd be good for
It
them.
was Edmonton is like Edmonton went on that crazy win streak where they hit like 15 games, but then they've been like kind of mid since.
They've been teetering because they're
Yeah,
not like
if
they're
they
not like.
heat up at the right time, it's going to be dangerous.
Oh my god, yeah. I mean, if they get Gensel and a goalie, I think it's jeez.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why Connor McDavid on the thumbnail of this video, like he's one of the men that the Rangers need to be saved from if they come across each other in the Stanley Cup Finals.
Oh Jesus Christ, that'd be. I'd love to see him in the Stanley Cup Finals. God, he'd go crazy.
Yeah, but not against us. I hope he doesn't do that against us. Like maybe after the Rangers win 5 straight Stanley Cups and then we go into another rebuild phase, then I'll let Connor McDavid cook in the Cup Finals when we're safely away from the danger.
I love that.
Yeah, but I don't know. Like we'll see what happens. Kind of like I said, this is like the penultimate episode covering the 2024 trade deadline because obviously when the trade happens, we gotta break it down, review, rate the deal, and talk about the future and the impact it has and everything. But I'm just excited to see what the Rangers do, who will go out and get, if anyone. But do you have any closing thoughts, Will?
I'm just very confused on what's gonna happen at this deadline. I've just seen so much, and I know what I want, but I don't know what. Like we know what the Rangers want, but we don't know anything. And obviously, it's like that all the time because Drury's very closed about it. But like, there's so much guessing that it's just like.
Yeah. Well, you see, I don't think we know what the Rangers want. We know what positions they need to fill, but I feel like every morning for the last 2 months, I've woken up
and saw different name that's being thrown out there.
Someone else.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a different name. Today I saw Kyle Okposo. Like
I saw that too.
It's like every single morning I'm seeing something different. And I'm like, I don't know what to think because there's just so much that's thrown at me. And I mean, honestly, I think you're really going to have to wait until the deadline because once the trade happens, that's the only way you're going to know that we're getting.
I definitely think like unless the trade happens at a really weird time, like if it happens tomorrow afternoon, there's really nothing I can do about it. But when the trade deadline is on a Saturday this afternoon, and if the Rangers this year, Saturday afternoon this year is when it is on March 8th. Or Friday, one of the two, I don't even know.
It's a Friday.
Yeah. So like Friday, is it the trade deadline's at 3? I think it's usually at 3. All right. We don't need to get into this now. I was going to say we could potentially live stream during it, but I'll be working until like 4 on that Friday. So if anything, we would have to do like a live stream reaction to everything that goes down around the NHL. But we'll worry about that later. To the fans that are watching, just know that we're cooking up something. Okay, we'll get something special made for you. But that about wraps up today's episode of Fireside Rangers. Thank you to everyone for watching. Make sure you like, subscribe, ring that bell so you don't miss a notification. If you're watching us on Apple or Spotify, be sure to give us a 5-star review. Leave your thoughts down in the comment section below. Do you agree with me or do you agree with Will? Or are you none of the above and you have your own top player that the Rangers need to go out and trade for at this year's trade deadline? Lastly, be sure to follow us on all of our social media platforms. Once again, have a good one and
let's go Rangers.